What are build and package manager tools? Say you are a group of developers writing an application for your startup or maybe a project in a big company. When you're done implementing your application, the application must be made available for the end users, right? So it needs to be deployed, meaning the application that you developed and is living in a code repository must somehow end up on a production server and run there. So how do you deploy a software application? Meaning, how do you move your code and its dependencies and everything needs to run to a server where the application will run? So it's accessible for end users. It could be a production server or staging server. Well, you package your application in a single movable file, and then you can get that file to a server and run it there. So you can move around that file. And that single packaged file is called application artifact. Packaging the application, also called building the code of the application into a singular artifact that you can move around and deploy or install on servers. And that will involve compiling the code of the application, compressing the code from hundreds of files into one file because you can't move around hundreds of files, and also make it smaller so that it's not too huge and slow to move around. So after artifact is built, we don't just directly copy it to the server, but rather we keep it also in a storage in case we need it multiple times. For example, if we deploy the artifact on a development server, then we're going to need to deploy that same artifact on a test environment and later maybe on a production environment. Or maybe that development server where we started the artifact, where we copied the artifact directly, crashes. So we need the backup of that artifact to deploy it again. And also you may need to give access to that artifact to testers so that they maybe can run it locally and test it there. So it could be a lot of different use cases. And that storage where we keep the artifact once we build it is called artifact repository. Examples of artifact repositories are Nexus or JFrog Artifactory, etc. So every time you release a new version of your application, or you want to make a new version available for testers to test before the release, you create an artifact, you save it in the artifact repository, and deploy it on the server. Now you probably are wondering what these artifacts look like. What kind of file formats do they have? Is it a zip file? Maybe some other special type? And what is inside that artifact? Well, depending on the programming language you use for your application, this packaging or this artifact file will look different. For example, if you have a Java application, the artifact file will be a jar or war file. Jar stands for Java Archive, where AR stands for archive. And it will include the whole code plus the dependencies your code uses, like Spring libraries, some datetime libraries, maybe PDF processor, etc. So basically everything your application code needs to run.